Welcome everyone to the MMA Vivisection for Bellator 175, Rampage versus King Mo 2. I'm Zane Simon of BloodyElbow.com, joined by Eddie Mercado and Victor Rodriguez. We are here to talk about the main card of this Bellator event coming at you tomorrow on Friday on Spike TV from Rosemont, Illinois. And Eddie, what are your thoughts about this card?
I think it's a decent card. The headliner, Rampage and King Mo, a rematch. Definitely excited to see what's going to happen there. The fight might be terrible, but who cares? Just wanting to know what happens is enough for me to want to watch it. We got a decent co-main event, I think. Someone who I'm not really too high on, and Marcos Galvao, former bantamweight champion, moving up to 145, taking on young gun Emmanuel Sanchez. I think that's going to be fun to watch. So, yeah, I don't think it's too bad. A couple up-and-coming prospects. So, hey, free TV, right?
And Sergey Haritonov, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Less excited about that.
Man, that Pride name value doesn't carry over as heavy as it used to, huh?
Well, not after getting knocked out in 16 seconds by Javier Ayala.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's an ugly way to go.
Yeah.
Vic, what are your thoughts?
Well, I actually like this main card. I think it's decent. It's full of interesting, good fighters, and there should be a fair amount of quality. The undercard may look like slim pickings. Honestly, there are some fights that are not really that enticing at first glance, but there are some pretty notable names there. Guys from the regional circuit that have some records that are actually better than they may seem, if you just look at the numbers only. Tim Cho is going to be on that card. He's been out there putting some fights on, some pretty decent performances. Manny Vasquez is another notable fighter. Joaquin Buckley is going to be fighting Justin Patterson. Very heavy hitters. Most of the guys that you're going to see are from that Midwest regional scene. And, they're fighters that have been in organizations like the XFO and other surrounding, Illinois, Iowa, Milwaukee type, those regional organizations. But we do have a fair amount of names that have been on Legacy and RFA back when they were separate, of course. They've been fighting for some of those events as well. So you're going to see some faces that you might have recognized if you've been watching on Access TV. So, yeah, there's a little something there, and definitely a lot for the home crowd. But yeah, that's pretty much where that is. Again, it could be pretty okay for the prelims, but there's definitely a lot of interest in seeing where these things go when it comes to the main card.
Yeah, just me casually glancing at the undercard, it is unfortunately even kind of missing that classic draw that Bellator has had, where there usually be like 2 or 3 veterans from like UFC or Strikeforce or Bellator main cards of the past on the undercard getting fights, or a couple of like highlight prospects who were top wrestlers or top grapplers or something like that breaking in. Don't see a lot of that this card, but the main card is a step up from some of their other recent main cards, which have been a bit lackluster. So that's on the plus side.
Yes.
On that note, we might as well just jump right into the main card since there's nothing really to highlight on the undercard. Nothing else. And the first main card bout is Noad Lahot versus Lloyd Carter. And Vic, what are your thoughts on this fight?
All right, for starters, we've already seen Noad Lahot, so we're going to actually step aside for a moment to look at Lloyd Carter, who's 11-8 as a professional, 6-5 as an amateur. The last fight that he had was a loss to Miguel Torres back in September of 2016. It was actually a submission loss. Not much that you can really say about that. Unfortunately, his record has shown him to be more or less towards the middle of the road. Nothing really that exceptional in his game. Not a bad fighter, but unfortunately he makes some choices in some of his fights that don't seem to be very wise. There's a lot of dependency on his athleticism, not as much on, technique, a lot of blitzes, a lot of wrestling attempts. And, generally that sort of thing. I think we can see what this matchup really is. Obviously, this is an attempt to keep Noad Lahot keep him in his winning ways. Lahot is 10-2 as a professional. The only losses he's had so far were to Diego Rivas and Pepe back in the UFC. He did have some wins over notable names like Shad Smith, Steve Seiler, Nicholas Backstrom, and Scott Cleve. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm not sure if his ceiling has necessarily been defined yet. I mean, the losses that he had earlier on kind of were what they were, and sometimes it's just a result of inexperience. I'm not really sure where he is right now. So I will have to go with Lahot just for being a better overall fighter, just having better technique and better defense. But I'm not really sure what this fight is going to say about him in the long run. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, Eddie, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, real quick, fan shout out to Liam Hughes, who's watching live. We appreciate you, buddy. Aside from that, Noad Lahot should absolutely smoke check this guy. Lloyd Carter, 10 wins. Of those, 0 have come by way of submission. He's lost 8 times. Of those, 5 have come by way of submission. The dude's getting submitted here. I don't see any other outcome. He has 0 KOs by flying knee, and that is the kryptonite for Noad Lahot. So Noad Lahot by submission, if not the first, in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, it really does look like, especially with Lahot and Bellator wanting to do shows in Israel and Lahot being kind of their flagship fighter for that, it does really feel like just let's get Lahot a showcase win, keep him on a streak so that the next time we have an Israel card, we can put him in against somebody who's like a good, solid, fun fighter and have an exciting fight for a hometown crowd. Which is fine. I mean, it's what you do when you don't have a lot of pieces to work with and you're trying to maximize money for investment. So Lahot is entering this fight as a massive favorite. He opened at minus 705, now out to minus 808.
That's insane.
And Lloyd Carter opened at plus 435, now up to plus 549. I will say, as much as I absolutely expect Noad Lahot to absolutely walk away with this fight, it is really weird to see him at over plus 500 odds. Even over minus 300 is weird for Noad Lahot. Like,
no, I'll say this, and this is just to be completely fair because I mean it's possible and it's likely true. We mentioned this last time we did a Vivisection for the Invicta card, and it was
you guys got all those picks wrong too, by the way.
We kind of did. There were some great upsets though. Like I was happy to see some of those upsets.
Yeah.
But what we mentioned was when we were talking about the Jinya Frey fight that didn't end up happening, and we were kind of, not necessarily rough on Invicta, but kind of look at the circumstances of her, the opposition that she was about to face. I think we can kind of say the same here, and it's possible that some people might have turned this one down too. Who wants to go in there and fight Noad Lahot? I mean, it's not like he got cut from the UFC because he was bad, so.
Yeah.
But you pick up a guy who's regional. I mean, I'm not saying that I wouldn't put it past any organization really to put on a fight like this to make a guy look good, especially as you mentioned, the Israel thing going on. But I don't know, man.
It's men's featherweight, and Noad Lahot having the chin he does, that there are dudes out there. Jim, there are more than enough dudes out there who think that they could take Noad Lahot and would see it as a huge opportunity. I don't think there are many prospects out there who are looking to protect their record from Lahot, considering that Diego Rivas sparked him.
Yeah, that's also true.
It's not like he's beat a couple of good guys, but it's not like he's losing to the best. He's losing to some other okay fighters.
That's also true, man.
All right. So that brings us to Steve Cazola versus Jake Roberts. Vic, what are your thoughts on this fight? Oh wait, no, Eddie, you. Vic's post talk there got me off.
This one is a little interesting. Some up and comers. You got Roberts, who's coming out of the MMA lab. He's not really great at anything from what I can tell. He's like a generalist, which is, he's in the right place being at the MMA lab. Steve Cazola has a Taekwondo background, 7-0 undefeated. You know, will throw the flashy stuff, the spinning stuff, has a knockout by spinning elbow. The knock on him, though, is he stands a little too upright. You'll see that with a lot of guys who come over from those non-traditional martial arts or any martial arts that involve a lot of kicking. The guys tend to stand a little tall and upright. And that has gotten him hurt in the past. We've seen him get wobbled. We've seen him get hurt. So he's hittable. So I'm definitely expecting this to be a scrappy match of young guns. I'm expecting mistakes, but when it's all said and done, I'm going to edge out Cazola here because Jake Roberts' friends, circle entourage, they screwed up by not naming him the Snake. So because of that, I'm going to pick Cazola, but it should be fun.
And you've seen Cazola's nickname, right?
What is he?
Thunder Beast.
Thunder Beast?
Yeah.
Oh man. As long as he didn't give it to himself, right?
Yeah, that's some Masters of the Universe shit. That's like it's corny in an adorable way though. Like I can't.
I like it. I like it. It's not Pitbull.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Also, apparently, he trains out of Dan Henderson's Athletic Fitness Center, which I have no idea if that's actually connected to Dan Henderson or not.
It might be connected to his bank account.
Might be, yeah. That would be my thought, is that it's a gym with his name on it.
No, but Jake Roberts, his nickname is the North County Nightmare.
Yeah.
What? Name him the Snake. Jake the Snake Roberts? Come on.
It's true. All right, Vic, your thoughts?
Yeah, what the hell's going on in North County? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Don't ask that. All right. Actually, I'm a lot more hyped for this fight than probably most people because watching these guys fight, it's actually I don't know. I have some pretty decent expectations out of this. Now, starting off with Cazola, every single one of his fights, first off, he's undefeated at 7-0, 2-0 as an amateur. All of his fights have come as a professional by finish. 3 knockouts, clean knockouts, 3 TKOs, and 1 submission. His head movement is very questionable. At some points, he forgets it is a thing. And that's something that we've noted for some of these guys that come over from, as Eddie mentioned, guys that come over from Taekwondo or karate. It's just something that it probably takes some time and some guys don't really focus on. His hand speed is great, though, and he just constantly applies that pressure. And the way he stands, it's a little hunched over, and even though he keeps his body very upright, but I guess it sort of plays into his hands because it benefits him because of the way he keeps moving forward in some way. It's kind of weird watching his opponents react to how he keeps moving forward and just doesn't really ever keep his back to the cage or anything like that. Another thing, he sticks at his opponent like flypaper. As soon as the guy comes in for a takedown, it's right away for some sort of a headlock. It's grabbing some sort of overhook and keeping everything very, very tight and close. Roberts, on the other hand, as you mentioned, from the lab, 7-1 as a professional, 2 TKOs, 4 submissions, also 5-0 as an amateur. All of those were by submission as well. He did have a win over World Series of Fighting fighter Chuka Willis by decision, and a win in Bellator over Steven Martinez by TKO. That was back in August. Last fight was a loss to Carrington Banks of Ultimate Fighter fame. That was back in November. Lanky dude, not much to see when it comes to his striking, but his grappling is very, very funky. Once he gets on his back, he's absolutely lethal. He's setting things up. He's tricking opponents and trapping the wrist. He's usually able to keep the feet on the hips and start baiting his opponent into certain things. And once he latches on, man, I mean, his triangle attempts look great. For one of these guys who's got long, spindly legs, I mean, he's got really great instincts on the ground, man. It's great to watch. So I'm going to go with Cazola just because fights do start off standing, and I don't really see Roberts going for a takedown. If anything, he'll probably pull guard or something like that because his offensive wrestling doesn't seem like it's something he's been putting too much time and effort into. But if Roberts ends up on his back, he's definitely got a very, very big chance of winning the fight. But we're going to go with Cazola here for being better all around, and especially because he's got his striking more in check.
The odds do agree with you. Cazola is the favorite, opening at -210, now at -174, although it should be noted that immediately jumped to -167. Has actually been going back getting wider at minus 160 or 174. And Roberts opened at plus 160, jumped around a little and then it stayed pretty even at plus 150 now, plus 147. So
with that, I think the what's the over under? Over 1.5 is minus 150.
yeah.
That's not terrible.
Yeah, especially with Cazola being the finisher that he has been.
I don't know. Actually, just don't even bet on this fight. It's too difficult to formulate an argument to say, hey, this is a reasonable bet.
Yeah,
Stay
I
with
mean,
me.
you're talking about two young kids who have, of which Cazola's been a great finisher and has done really well in his fights, but he hasn't faced much competition. And Roberts has faced much better competition and doesn't have quite the same finishing venom, or doesn't seem to. Although isn't terrible. He's finished a lot of fights, but not the same power to it.
And we don't know what Cazola's like in the third round.
Yeah.
So it's just best to just watch this one.
That brings us to a heavyweight bout: Sergey Haritonov versus Chase Gormley. Vic, what's your thoughts?
Oh boy, yeah, this is going to be ugly as sin. We're going to start off with Gormley, a guy who's fought seemingly everywhere at this point. I mean, King of the Cage, IFL, UFC. Yet he's only got a record of 14-5. 4 of those wins were TKOs, 2 submissions, and he's currently on a 2-fight win streak, having something of a, not necessarily a career resurgence, but a nice little run that he's putting together at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's only lost one fight since 2011. That's not bad, you know?
Yeah, and he's beating guys that aren't necessarily upper echelon, but they're not necessarily terrible fighters either. I mean, he's got wins over Joey Beltran, John Madsen, and Tony Lopez. Although we should also note they are also fighters that are in later stages of their career. But again, there's not that much you can ask for in men's heavyweight pretty much anywhere, because even in the UFC and the lower levels, I mean, we're seeing some stuff that we don't need to get into. Losses, well, he's had losses to earlier in his career to some pretty good guys that went on to do some pretty amazing stuff. I mean, Stefan Struve was probably at the height of his power at that point with the triangle choke win in 2009. Brendan Schaub got him by TKO in 2010. Mike Whitehead beat him by TKO. Dan Charles knocked him out. Actually, no, Dan Charles beat him in 2015. Is that wrong?
Yeah, that's
2015
loss.
Yeah, that's the one, right? So he's still a very well put together fighter. Now Haritonov, we've already seen what the guy can do. We've seen him in kickboxing, we've seen him in Pride, we've seen him even in Bellator. Just going out there and putting on some pretty ferocious performances. The problem I'm having right now is after that last fight against Javier Yada, I don't know how much I can trust him. Now, not so much to the point that I'm going to say that Gormley is definitely going to win. I don't know that Gormley can actually replicate that same kind of performance against Haritonov, and even if so, I'm pretty sure Sergey is likely to be ready there. Interesting note, Sergey is already booked to fight in June, even though this fight's happening. Man, I don't know, man. I mean, his only losses after Pride have been Josh Barnett, Jeff Monson, and Javier Yada, at least in MMA. I mean, I'm gonna the smart pick has to be Haritonov. Problem is, I don't know really how that's gonna happen. I don't know what kind of damage he's gonna take. I mean, Gormley doesn't seem like he's got that kind of size and explosive ability to finish a takedown, to really take Sergey down and keep him there to do the kind of damage he would need to do to finish him. I don't see him submitting him. I don't see him outmatching him on the feet. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Haritonov by some kind of slow TKO somewhere in the third round, I guess.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Gormley over his career has 3 knockouts due to punches and then 1 due to injury. And for a heavyweight, that's pretty low. So
very.
Eddie, your thoughts? You going with you willing to take a flyer on Gormley here?
Nah, I can't. I would like to, but he just hasn't showed me he's got what it takes. I think Gormley's going to come out and he's going to play the outside, being cute, throwing leg kicks and jabs and, just this outside long game. And it's going to work for a little bit, but he's not going to hurt Haritonov, I don't think. And he's going to get caught. He's going to get caught somewhere along the line, maybe while throwing a leg kick or something like that. But he's just shown to be exceptionally hittable. And Haritonov, I think, is gonna take advantage of that. I think he's definitely slow and old, but I think he's still slick enough to capitalize on Gormley's just defensive lapses. Like, he's just hittable. I don't see a way for Gormley to win this. I don't think he'll get the lucky one-punch knockout. I think he's just going to try to volume his way to a decision, and that's not going to work out. So I'm taking Haritonov, and I'm picking him by knockout, probably second round.
Yeah, if Gormley does get that one-punch KO, that's going to be a really sad day.
Yeah, for many reasons.
Haritonov is the favorite, opening at minus 280 and then jumping up to minus 255 and drifting slowly back out to minus 272. And Gormley, the underdog, opening at plus 200 and slowly drifting closer, or drifting out to plus 224. So
stay away, stay away, stay away.
Yeah.
Say what you will about Eddie Mercado, the man is not fucking reckless. I appreciate that. I respect that.
That brings us to our co-main event, featherweight bout, Emmanuel Sanchez, Marcos Galvao. Eddie, talk me through it.
So excited for this fight, Marcos Galvao versus Eduardo Dantas 3. I am just I'm so excited for this. Marcos Galvao, I mean, what can you say about the dude? First fight at 145, former 135 champ. He will throw his strikes, but he's known for his grappling. But he only has one submission on his record. So there's that. When it comes to his striking, he tends to be a bit flat-footed. He can't really cut the cage off very well. He's got rather slow hand speed, no head movement, doesn't check kicks, and quite frankly, he fades late. On the flip side, Emmanuel Sanchez, 6-2 in Bellator. His last 5 were debatable, so there's that. But he's got striking fundamentals. He's got ground fundamentals, and I think that'll carry him very far in this one. He's got better cardio. He's got the better striking combinations, mixing in punches, mixing in kicks. He throws more volume. He brings better pressure forward. He has better movement. So outside of a reckless mistake, I think Sanchez is catching a body here. I think he's getting a first-round knockout.
That would be quite the pick for pickup for Sanchez, considering it would be the second knockout of his career.
Much needed knockout too. But if anyone's got the style to get knocked out by Sanchez, it's Marcos Galvao. All
right, Vic, you agree?
Nah, I don't see that. Now here's where I agree. Let's start there. Galvao is, obviously a very, I guess at this point, he's a bit worn down, as a veteran. I mean, that's what the sport does to people. He's had some pretty bad losses, but he's also had some pretty good wins. His style is, as Eddie mentioned, he's got his limitations when it comes to his striking and putting everything together. And he is known more for controlling with his grappling. He does go for certain submissions, but if it doesn't work out, he does have other transitions that he's able to fall back on in order to keep that control and be able to, continue hurting his opponent. The problem is that Sanchez has a style that's so well suited for winning rounds that, I just think that Galvao is going to be very susceptible to it. I don't think that his, Sanchez just has a better use of range. Eddie, you already mentioned his cardio. That's also very true. He's gotten a lot more accurate with his strikes as of late, and it's really helped him. He's really benefited greatly from being able to put this entire game together and do just enough, and then a little bit more in order to win fights by decision. It's not necessarily his fault. I don't think he's aiming to go for to just get any sort of decision wins, because none of his wins have been exactly, that I can remember, have been boring necessarily.
Nah.
It's just
he's not dominant enough for boring wins. I'll say that.
That's also true. And so, you end up in a situation where he's not really finishing fights. He's good. He's just not someone that there's no real sizzle when you hear, oh, Emmanuel Sanchez is fighting. You know what I mean? Like, maybe us, because we're nerds, and we appreciate the sort of technical aspects of what he does and respect what he's doing. But yeah, I think I certainly do agree that he has more than enough tools to beat Galvao and outpoint him. I just don't think he's going to be able to knock him out at all. I don't really see that happening. If anything, Galvao probably knocks Sanchez out if he gets too confident. But I don't really know about that either, because Sanchez hasn't really taken that much damage in some of his fights. And the shots he's taken, I don't really see him getting too wobbled. So,
nah.
Yeah, that's where that is. No.
Yeah, Sanchez strikes me. I mean, I think the big thing with Sanchez is he's just not that great an athlete. He's technical. He works hard. He's got a well-rounded game. He's picked everything up. But he doesn't have enough of that dynamic athleticism to take people out and to dominate anywhere. Because a lot of it, too, is that he ends up letting people in fights because he can't knock them out or submit them, or doesn't. Then he'll make mistakes later on as the fight goes on and give away rounds or let guys hang out and hurt him, or let guys into fights that he shouldn't. And that's why almost every fight he's had in Bellator has been a split decision.
I mean, I feel like he almost has to come out and put this guy away. Like, he has to. I don't think he's going to get there's no one that I can think of that has as porous striking defense as Marcos Galvao.
Yeah.
And Galvao's moving up. This is not Eduardo Dantas that's going to be hitting him.
Well, I mean,
I honestly, I don't think he's going to be able to handle the pressure, the volume. I think he's going to wilt.
Dantas hits pretty hard, and Dantas knocked him the fuck out, if I remember correctly. No?
Well, he caught him with the stiff uppercut, but the second time was hard to watch. It was 5 rounds of just a beat. It was almost like Dantas didn't want to put him away.
Yeah, well, there was a whole bunch of weirdness surrounding that fight too, with like all the emotional former friends and training partners thing and all that. I don't think Galvao. I don't think Galvao really wanted the first fight. I know he didn't want the first fight, and I don't think he wanted the second fight, even though he felt like he could do it.
Right.
But
Vic, are you picking Sanchez, or you're just not picking him?
I am picking Sanchez. I just don't see him finishing this.
You guys are both picking Sanchez. So Sanchez opened at -210 and has drifted out to -258, and Galvao opened at +160 and has drifted out to +211.
The money's moving in the right direction, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think my friend is going to probably still put a little something on Sanchez.
All right. Even as wide as the odds are getting, still worth it?
At -260, yeah, I think it's still worth it. You can still get it at -250. If it gets to 3, though, I would say no, but...
All right. That brings us to our main event. Quentin Rampage Jackson, King Mo Lawal. Rampage weighing in at 253 pounds. King Mo weighing in at 212. So literally 40 pounds between them. Vic, what are your thoughts here?
This is going to go over like a fart in church. I mean, I have no, listen, I watch purely out of obligation, all right, because and look, I know I'm not the only one who does this. If you gotta keep up with the sport and you gotta write about it and you gotta do stuff, I mean, it just is what it is. So I had no real interest. I was disappointed going in. I was disappointed when it was over, and I have a feeling we're just going to see more of the same here. I mean, maybe we're going to see a little more of Mo's wrestling, as he mentioned, or maybe he was just saying that to rile Quentin up because he knows Rampage doesn't like that stuff, And something needs to be said for Rampage being so picky. Like, I only want to fight top guys, but I don't want to fight wrestlers because they're going to take me down. Like, dude, you started as a wrestler. Like, this is the sport of mixed martial arts. This is something, it's a reality that you'll have to confront. So you're going to go in there against a guy who's been known for being an exceptional wrestler, who's adapted his MMA wrestling very well, especially in recent years, who really fell in love with his boxing. And that's where a lot of his fights have fallen apart. Shit, man. I really don't have any faith in Rampage at this point. I mean, he's gotten slower. He's sort of lost more than just a step. He seems to have lost that finishing instinct. He certainly has a desire to go out there and win by knockout, but I don't really know that he's putting everything together in order to do so. He's going to be going in there against a guy who's going to probably pick at him from the outside, use his speed, use his athleticism, and then eventually take him down, and then do it again, and then do it again. And then we're just going to see Rampage heaving, and it's probably going to go to a decision or some kind of late TKO by Mo, and I don't think anyone's really going to walk away too happy. So, yeah, there's that.
But you're picking King Mo.
Yeah, you know, I have to, man. I have to at this point, especially after watching Rampage at the weigh-ins. Like, guy, I don't know. I'm not buying what you're selling here.
All right, Eddie, you picking Rampage here?
I want Rampage to win.
All right, that's not picking him though.
Keep going.
Since they last fought, Rampage has fought twice. King Mo 10 times. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And in that time frame, Rampage has put on so much weight. And I mean, I'm sure he's more powerful. And that first minute and a half of that fight is going to be scary. And he's going to be coming out and hooking and uppercutting and getting all low and all this. And then I think by the fourth minute, he's probably going to be petered out from carrying around all that extra weight that he's not used to.
And Mo's weight.
And Mo's weight, yeah. Mo, on the other hand, he's been fighting big dudes. He just fought Mirko Krokop, for God's sakes. Didn't end well for him. He started off doing well. He did manage to get Krokop down, landing some good strikes. But second round, he got a takedown stuffed, and Krokop threw him in the corner and mauled him. But Bellator cages don't have corners. So that's not going to happen. I have to pick Mo here. Outside of his reflexive defense that could get him in trouble, I think you know, he's been fighting consistently. He's been in shape consistently. He's fighting the bigger dudes, less miles. Plus, he'll have the speed and cardio advantage. So I trust Mo to make it over a round and a half, or over a round, and that alone, I think, will he'll be able to have a way easier time in rounds 2 and 3. So I'll pick Mo, and I would if he's gonna win, I would like to see a submission since he doesn't have one yet, but it's probably going to be a decision.
It should be noted too that the only time we've seen Rampage really like be his hard punching, aggressive self is the last time we saw it is probably the Christian Mpumbu fight and Joey Beltran fights in 2014 and 2013. And before that, you would have to go back to his Wanderlei Silva fight in 2008.
Oh, God. And can we also note that Beltran probably got more shots in than he should have in that fight?
Probably.
I mean, you know, not enough to put him away, but that alone is also cause for concern. So,
win or lose over the past near decade, Rampage has rarely looked like he cares all that much about fighting.
To be fair, though, against Fabio Maldonado, he was throwing kicks, like head kicks and body kicks. He was throwing a lot of knees. So, I mean, he did show different wrinkles in his game as opposed to his classic boxing.
Absent the threat of the takedown, then I mean that was going to happen. But you put him in there against someone who's more complete, you know, who's known for
even against Ishii. I mean, he was still throwing knees against him.
Yeah, he used to, I mean, back in his Pride days, he used to actually have a really good knee game.
That's how he beat Chuck Liddell, right? He took him down and just kneed the shit out of him from side control.
Anyway, it is really hard to trust a Rampage who looks as unmotivated as he does, and who arguably lost the first King Mo fight. You know,
I
That's
scored it
another
for King
thing.
Mo.
There you go.
so
And,
Mo
I mean,
is
not even that. I'm sorry.
Well, what were you gonna say?
I don't think he
No,
beat
no, that
Ishii
wasn't-
either.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, after that first fight, I mean, Rampage and Mo fought that time. The decision was also somewhat controversial. And then you look at the run that Mo had in Ryzen in that Grand Prix. I mean, again,
Yep.
another, and I'll say it again, an accomplishment that doesn't get him the credit. It should be more heralded than it's been. But, I mean, that alone shows that he's in a far fresher place than Rampage. So, again, anyone who bets on Rampage at this point, like, you got to be a real degenerate for that, man.
Yeah, Mo is entering this fight as a sizable favorite. Started at minus 160, has quickly dropped out to minus 337. Rampage opening at plus 120, now out to plus 269. So those odds have split apart in a pretty big hurry.
If you were going to bet on Mo, you missed your window.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
That's true.
What about do you think the over-under has any value here?
Damn it. No, because the over 2.5 is minus 245. Son of a bitch. Minus 210 for a decision. I can't. You know what? I can't trust Fat Rampage to last 15 minutes.
But you can't trust him not to. That's the worst
I can't
part.
trust him not to.
He's tough.
I can't trust
Rampage
Fat
has always been
Rampage.
tough as hell.
Yeah.
I
Always.
can't trust Fat Rampage to last 15 minutes.
It's
That's
not
what she
Fat
said.
Rampage. It's Fat Page.
It's Fat Page. I like that. I'll go with that.
All
Fat
right.
Page.
On that note, that closes the show out for Bellator 175. You can find me on Twitter at DZaneSimon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at the Eddie Mercado. You can find Vic on Twitter at Vic M. Rodriguez. You can find all three of us over at BloodyElbow.com in our various roles. You can find this video is on YouTube, obviously. And if you are on YouTube watching it, give us a like. That's a thumbs up down below. That helps us a ton. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com. That's DOTCOM. That's where you get all the latest Bloody Elbow shows, interviews, analysis, all that good stuff. We'll be back next week for UFC 210 of Vivisection, Care, Don't Care, If I Did It, Knuckle Up, 6th Round, Heavy Hands, all that good stuff, all our normal shows. So stay tuned for all that, and I will see you next time.